everyone, I'm Donovan, but you can call me Don, and this is my dad.
Hey, what's up? My name is Dean, and welcome to Talking Hoops.
Yeah, we just wanted to have this little segment or episode of talking about basketball since we don't really have anything else to do.
That's right. And I guess what you could say too is that we love basketball. And as you can tell, I'm a Celtics fan.
And I'm a Heat fan.
Now, we have more championships, so at least I can.
Hey.
At least
you gotta go there.
That's the one thing. But it's so funny because I've been a Celtics fan all my life. He knew that I liked basketball, and he wasn't into basketball as much as I was until fairly recent. I think
Sixth grade?
6th or 7th grade-ish. 6th grade is
5
when he
years ago
really
now.
started, so 5 years. But he's like the hugest basketball fan I know because he can watch basketball for all day long. He'll watch clips and highlights. He'll watch full games and everything.
I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that, being also basketball fans. So I'm a Heat fan because that's just the first playoff series I watched. Heat vs Hornets 2016. That 7-game series was intense and it was amazing. Hashtag purple shirt guy. If you know, you know.
So anyways, we're going to be talking a lot about different things with this Talking Hoops here. But maybe the first thing we should talk about is, we'll start with who is your favorite player?
Currently? Or?
Currently. Who is your favorite player?
Currently?
Yeah.
Well, he's not active this season, but my favorite player to watch is Steph.
Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Okay. And why?
Just because of the exciting way he plays, I guess.
Okay.
I know a lot of people can relate to that because we all, recently especially, we all know him, and he just brings this light to the game that just makes you so happy, and it's just cool to watch.
Yeah, that's true. He's a very entertaining figure, especially on the basketball court. I love watching him play as well. For myself, I would probably say Steph as well. I like the fact that he's probably the most well-rounded player. There's a lot of players that are well-rounded in the league right now.
Well, offensively.
Offensively, because people grumble about his defensive game, which I think is unfair because I think he's a decent defender.
For his size, he's the best he can be.
Yeah, because there's a lot of guys who are very tenacious. I would say like Patrick Beverly. For his size at 6 feet, he's not afraid to guard anybody out there on the court, which is
it's crazy.
It's pretty amazing. But yeah, Steph Curry is probably one of my favorite guys to watch. I think I like watching him because he can change a game in a matter of seconds. He can just turn the game around.
You know those basketball games that the NBA streams on YouTube?
Yeah.
I watched the OKC versus the Warriors in 2016.
Okay.
Steph made 12 threes and he had 40-something points. And I think they came back from down a lot.
Yeah.
I don't really remember how much, but it was all mostly because of the way Steph plays and his energy, and it's just so good.
Yeah, I think that's what's very, very amazing about the way they play. I think if you look at gameplay, which is actually what we're going to be talking mostly about today, the way the game is played today as compared to the way the game was played back in the day when I was watching all the time. And I still watch all the time now, but when I was watching all the time when I was younger, the way the game was played back then and compared to now has changed phenomenally. And I think one of the big reasons is because of Steph. Do you think he gets a bad rap?
In what way?
Well, it seems as though so many people talk trash about him, which I don't understand. They'll say he's never won an Finals MVP, or they'll say things like, "Oh, KD deserved it and he didn't," or Andre Iguodala deserved it and he didn't, which I think it kind of. I don't feel like it's true, and the reason why I feel that way is because if you think about it, they got everywhere that they they got there because of him and Clay.
I think if Steph isn't there, they don't get to the playoffs at all.
You know what I'm saying? And they probably wouldn't have won some championships if if Steph wasn't there too as well. That's what I believe.
But in terms of Finals MVPs, especially those years, Andre Iguodala, Dida, LeBron.
Yeah, he had to do for real. I mean, I can't take anything away from Andre, but you still gotta look at what Steph did, because stopping LeBron was just part of the equation.
Yeah.
You still needed people to score the ball, right? That's part of the game too. Like, the ball still needs to go into the basket, if I'm not wrong, right? You still have to score points in order to win. The defense is a huge part of winning championships, I believe, and that's no doubt. You still gotta score the ball though, right? You still gotta score the ball.
I think people just bag on Steph because of the praise, you know. And with all the praise he gets, it's got to equal out. So everyone says Steph is so good, but then there'd be the guys that'll bring it into perspective and show you the numbers or whatever. Some people call it hate, some people call it like
That's
just
true.
different perspective, I guess.
That's true. Well, I think like a good example of that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a LeBron hater, all right? But LeBron James, okay, so like he arguably is one of the greatest players to ever play the game. I'll give him that. And arguably been the MVP for like I don't know how many years straight if they didn't like give it to other people just because. Same thing with Michael Jordan. When Michael Jordan was playing, he probably could have won the MVP like consecutively 8, 9, 10 times in a row. But they decided to show other people love
Because of the storylines each year.
Exactly.
It changes it.
It changes, right? You know, and no matter what, I feel like LeBron is probably the best player in the game every single year. I mean, you look at guys like Antetokounmpo right now, Giannis.
This year. Harden.
Harden. You look at Harden. You know, so there's some guys that's making some serious noise right now. But look at LeBron though.
He's so good.
And
he's in his 17th year.
he's 35. He's gonna be 35 years old, and he's like killing it at his age, which is amazing. And I give him all the props. But you know what? Like, there's been so much comparison with him and Kobe, with him and Michael Jordan, who's gonna be the greatest of all time. And you know, you can throw people in like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You can throw in Wilt Chamberlain. You can throw in Kobe Bryant. You can throw in Bill Russell. There's so many names you can throw as some of the greatest player of all time. I think people are gonna get overlooked, and then people's opinions, right?
Yeah. As much as a fun conversation it is to compare eras, it's basically impossible.
Yeah,
It's based on opinion for the most part.
that's true. That's
So
true.
it's gonna be tough to categorize them into one subject. But it's a fun conversation to have, and that's why everyone likes to talk about it.
Well, I think it would be amazing to have seen some of the old school players playing now and some of these new kids playing back then. Because I think, honestly, there are some new kids that would have been able to bang and play well in the 80s, back when the league was super, super, super physical. The 80s and parts of the 90s, it was super, super physical back then. And there are some players I feel like could do it. I definitely feel like there's a lot of players from the old school that if they was playing now, oh my gosh. Like, can you imagine Michael Jordan? Probably like the first one you can bring up. Michael Jordan on a daily basis would go down the lane and get killed.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you can drive down the lane and guys barely even touch you. You know?
But it works the other way. Because on the defensive end, maybe that makes him a liability. Because the way they played back then, you can D-up, you can hand check and everything.
Yeah, that's true.
But then, what if that doesn't work in their favor?
That's true. That's true. So I mean, that's why you look at their you look at the errors, like you said. You look at the skill set.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing too. Like, you look at skill set. It's so different now, the skill set, compared to back in the day. And you know what? Since we're kind of morphing the two conversations together, why don't we just talk about gameplay and get into that that part of what we were going to talk about, gameplay itself. Now, to me, I look at gameplay now, and when we're talking about gameplay, we're talking about the physicality. We're talking about how the game has changed since old school, since back in the day till present day. Now, back in the day,
Wait. What do you consider old school? Where's the border?
I would say 80s,
So 90s and up is like new school.
2000s and up maybe.
Oh, that's new school, and then 80s to the 2000s.
That's what I would say, because I think even early 2000s, they're a little bit more physical.
Yeah.
The rules were a little different.
But then that's where it started changing.
That's when I would say probably the early 2000s, probably mid 2000s is where it really started changing the way the game was being played, which is very interesting because anybody who knows basketball, we don't claim to be like basketball savants and like geniuses and know every single stat of every single player and every single team, which we will probably dive into later on as our YouTube channel starts to get more, I guess, more seasoned, so to speak, right? But
we just talk about it the way we see it.
yeah, and that's kind of how we've always discussed it, watching the kids play now. And we've heard it before. Like, you look at the physicality of the game, and how, with Donovan, you just said it, the hand checking rule, like before, posting up was super hard, because guys would have their elbows in their backs. They would even be touching and holding them, stopping them from coming into the lane, which is probably why shooting is way more important now. Whereas, to me, back in the day, it was always, the game was played inside out.
Oh yeah, not much mid range.
Yeah, most of the time you would have like one super good big guy, Kareem, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Shaq. You look at these guys, and they would just dump the ball in. Hakeem, Alonzo Mourning, all of these players from back in the day. You dump the ball inside, and that's pretty much an automatic 2 points if you dump the ball inside, right? And then of course they pass it out to a good shooter. But nowadays it seems like the way the NBA is running, a lot of the plays are set for outside shooting. There's not a lot of plays set for the big man nowadays.
But it all goes back to Curry.
Yeah,
like how we talked about earlier. He changed the game. That's just the way he plays, and people saw that it worked. People want to do it. It just like. I hear this saying a lot on like ESPN. I don't know who I heard it from specifically, but it's a copycat league. If what one person works. If what one person does works, everyone starts to do it.
Oh, that makes sense though, but like, cause you look at, I hate to say it, you look at the league now.
You always say how soft it is.
And well, besides the softness, the fact that there's so many kids shooting from way beyond the 3-point line, like. It's amazing how many of these kids nowadays can knock down threes from 30 feet.
Yeah. That's all they focus on now.
It's amazing. But you know what sucks though? Like, back in the day, what a lot of the guys used to focus on was the fundamentals of the game.
Yeah.
So like, dribbling was always one of the things. Like, back in the day, even the centers could dribble good. Like, they all could dribble really well. They all could pass. They all could do everything well. They were very well rounded, and nowadays it just doesn't seem like the kids focus or even think about learning how to dribble well. They only think about knocking on that three.
Speaking about dribbling specifically, they learn one move.
Oh, okay.
They don't learn it fundamentally. They learn one move. They get highlights or whatever, and that's all they try to do. They just learn these cool moves for highlights, and I can say that because I do that too. You see a cool video of Curry or Harden or Dame Lillard breaking ankles, and you want to do that.
Yeah.
So you try to do it, and you just keep learning the move, but it's just one move.
Well, I think what's interesting too is I think dunking has always been a big part of basketball. From the day that they could actually dunk in in a real game, because there was a time in the NBA where you wasn't allowed to dunk.
Really?
There was a time where you weren't allowed to dunk.
I didn't know that.
They actually started allowing the dunk, and I think what they did was they started, and anybody who knows or has been around basketball or watching the NBA for years knows that the way the game's evolved, that's how they allowed it, because it brought excitement to the game, which makes a lot of sense.
And then it brought the slam dunk contest and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and it just
Yeah.
they just made more money off of it, basically.
That's
It's
it.
entertaining.
That's exactly it. So, the other thing besides the physicalities, I am amazed on the way and the fundamentals. Everybody knows Tim Duncan, you know, the big fundamentals coined by Shaquille O'Neal, Mr. Shaquille O'Neal. He was one of the guys, like nowadays, the bank shot is a lost art.
It is.
It's like, it amazes me that even down on the high school and intermediate and middle school levels, it's like the coaches aren't really teaching that. And the bank shot is, if you do, everybody knows. Anybody out there who watches, who knows basketball, you know. You do the bank shot correctly, that's money. That's why they call it the bank. Because if you do it right, that's money in the bank. That's guaranteed 2 points. And of course, you know, there's a lot of kids out there that they're striving to get a big three.
Yeah. The pretty swishes.
That's, hey, I gotta admit, to hear that from the net is a beautiful sound.
It's very nice.
I gotta admit, you know, hearing that sound come up. But what do you think about that? You know, how shooting and it seems as though the mid-range, I think you said it earlier, the mid-range game's kind of been a lost art, you know?
Well, I watched these like analyst kind of videos on YouTube, right? Like I watched shout out to B-Ball Breakdown, you know. I love that channel.
I like that guy too.
You know,
yeah.
he just did this video on Bradley Beal, and how he's one of the few who likes the mid. Well, people give up the mid range because it's not a three.
Okay.
It's actually noted that it's one of the most. It's the least efficient shots in the game because
Okay.
it's long range, but it's not a three. If
Okay.
you're gonna take a long range shot, take a step out and take the three. But I'm pretty sure that's one of the main reasons that mid range isn't like. Not a lot of people take them anymore. Even though players like Bradley Beal and Steph Curry can still take a step in and make the shot.
Yeah, the thing about that, what amazes me about that is that even though they might shoot 49-50% from the 3-point line, I guarantee you they probably shoot 60% when they take a step in.
It would be interesting to see how many points people would score if they just took more mid-range shots.
Yeah, because I mean, like, it's interesting because like, even with if you average 50%, right, which is crazy, and it's rare because you know there's most guys who average like 40-something%. The really good shooters probably average about 40, and then it tends to drop as you get. And those centers that are shooting like 30-something% or you know high 30s, it's amazing that they are doing that. But of course they're practicing it, so it kind of makes sense. But it just amazes me that they'll give up a two.
Yeah.
They'll give up that two to shoot the three, whereas coming down the court, and this is my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of people might think the same way. You coming down the court, all you need is a two to win a game or to tie a game.
It's easier if it's closer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could step back and take the three, which is gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be all hyped. Everybody's gonna be jumping. Everybody's gonna be excited about that three because you knocked it down. But the percentage of you getting in that mid-range two, or even one layup, because sometimes they're coming down on a fast break, and instead of taking it to the hoop, you got a 2-on-1. Instead of taking it to the hoop,
They kick it out.
they'll kick it out for the three. But you could have got the two, and you're already up one, or you only need a two.
Yeah.
So it kind of amazes me that they'll give up that opportunity for a shot that is lower in percentage.
Yeah.
You know, granted, they'll knock them down. Not every time though, right?
You only see the highlights.
Yeah.
That's the only thing people care about.
Exactly. Right. So like out of the 100 shots, you probably gonna make 40 of the 100 shots, right?
But you still miss 60.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
You know, but then if you was to take a few steps in or even do the layup, the odds of you making that 10-footer or 15-foot shot or that layup is greater, and you still get the same results, the win or the tie.
But then that's where it comes back to, that's what people practice now.
That's true.
That's just how people grow up. People grew up watching Steph, and then that's just what they do now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. We were watching a program the other day with shout out to Mr.
Matt, all the smoke.
All the
Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson.
Shout out to Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson. We were watching your show the other day, All the Smoke.
As
You
if they'll
guys
see this.
That's right. Well, I mean, you never know.
Anyway.
Shout out, what's up? Hey, anyways, the other day we were watching an episode. It was from like the beginning of the year though, I think.
The one with JR?
No, the one with Steph Curry.
Oh, okay.
And one of the interesting things he said that you brought up to me
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, I think it was about the fundamentals and how remember what this Steph said?
He said nobody cares about the process.
Nobody cares about the process.
They just care about the results. So, like I was saying earlier, you see the video, that's what you see, that's what you focus on, that's what you do.
So that means every day, when these kids go out to practice ball or whatever, the first thing every single youngster, whether it's in elementary, intermediate, or high school, the first thing a lot of them do is chuck up a three, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty much the first thing every single child does, which amazes me, especially since some of these kids, they don't realize, like you said, and like Steph said, how much work it took for him to get where he is today.
I wish this video didn't make me sound so hypocritical, because I look at myself and I realize I don't really focus on the fundamentals that much. Like, I won't go on the court and start shooting threes or anything, but I don't really focus on the dribbling and stuff as much as I should.
Or as you used to.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, it's like, it just shows you how monkey see, monkey do, you know?
Yeah. I guess like you said, it's the end result. Like everybody's looking at that one thing that's gonna make them quote unquote famous. Maybe not you, or maybe not everybody, but like a lot of kids nowadays, they're looking for that Instagram fame, that thing that's gonna make
clout.
Yeah, somebody's looking for that blue check mark. They're trying to get big, right? Like they want to get verified, certified, so that everybody on IG knows who they are, right? And so they're looking to make that big shot or that crossover dribble or something to turn heads, to make eyes pop, to make guys go, whoa!
Yeah.
You know? And it just, I think Steph said it best. Shout out to Steph Curry. Steph said it best when he was talking about how they don't know the process. How he said back when he started shooting and started playing, the first thing his dad did was take the ball under the basket and start shooting from inside out. Like, learn the game from the inside out. You know, put the ball up from the inside and get the stroke on the inside. And once you master the stroke on the inside, you take a few steps back. Like, basically, you're making your range grow, but you're working on your form at the same time to make sure that your form doesn't change as you go back, right? That same form that you're using when you're 5 feet away should be the same when you're 10 feet away, and vice versa, and continue as you keep getting back. And if you look at Steph Curry and his game, like, no matter where he is on the court, his form is the same, no matter what, right?
It's crazy consistent.
Yeah. You know how he can come off of a screen and just like be a quick curl and just go up. You look at his form, you look at his wrist, you look at his body, everything straight, and then you look at his form straight towards the basket, and it's a swish. And he can even turn his head, not even look at the basket, and be like, money.
And get hit, get an extra point from the free throw line, and then
Yeah. You know, it's so funny. they was talking about we were watching it. They were talking about who they think. Does he think that he and Clay are the two best guard tandem or something like that? Was it
The two best shooters, I think.
of
or something
all
like
time?
that.
Something
I
like
forget
the best
question he
shooting
asked.
guard or the best. Yeah, something like that. Anyways,
I forget the question.
and
part.
Steph was like, yeah, like because like,
It's all about confidence.
and how can you argue with it though?
It's just true.
Yeah, you can't
Right.
argue it because you look at guys. I mean, you look at guys like good shooters, like hella good shooters. His dad was a hell of a good shooter back in the day, and he eclipsed his dad. You know, Ray Allen. I think he still holds the record, if I'm not mistaken.
For
3-pointers.
I think he's one behind Reggie Miller.
Oh, he's behind Reggie
Yeah.
Miller, but that's another one.
It's one of the other in front. Reggie
Okay.
Miller, Ray Allen, but Steph Curry's third.
Third, yeah, and he still has a few more years under his belt.
I think the one thing about that though, you never get two great shooters on the same team.
Which what they have, right?
Yeah. So that's what makes it so dynamic and so amazing and so fun to watch. That's why people watch the Warriors. That's why people hop on the bandwagon. They like to watch fun basketball.
Yeah.
And that's what they bring.
I think that's what, like, if you compare them, like a lot of people like to compare them to other, what do you call it, dynasties of the past, right? You look at with the Warriors. You look at a team like the Heat. The Heat went to a lot of championships with LeBron. The Cavaliers went to a lot of championships with LeBron. They didn't win a lot of championships. The Heat won 2 with LeBron.
But the Cavs went to 4 straight still.
They went to 4 straight. That's true.
4 straight.
That's true. But the Buffalo Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost all 4. You know what I mean? So at least Cleveland won one of those. But then you look at the Celtics, you look at the Bulls,
The Lakers.
you look at the
Spurs.
Lakers, the Spurs. Now the Spurs is interesting to me. It's an interesting dynasty. I would call them a dynasty, even though they've never really won
Multiple in
in a row. Like,
But that 20-year stretch with Tim Duncan.
but for 20 years, the Spurs was always looking as one of the top teams in the hunt for the championship
in the West.
for 20 years. So which is amazing, right? From the day Tim Duncan got onto the Spurs team, they was in the hunt, in the playoffs and everything for 20 consecutive years.
And even a couple years after that, they've still been looking good. Not
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, kind of got ended.
Yeah.
But, they'll probably work it out. Find somewhere for DeMar or Aldridge, whatever they do.
Yeah.
That'll be cool to see.
It'll be cool to see. Who do you think is the best dynasty?
The best? I'm obligated to say the Heat.
Yeah. Okay.
But-
all right.
Also because it's the most I don't know.
Well, it is one of the most recent. So which
One of them.
Yeah, one of the most recent. Which I can understand.
But I would have loved to watch those Spurs teams and everything, those Lakers, those Celtics. I didn't even watch the Heat, but I'm a Heat fan.
I feel like if you were alive and able to watch the Bulls play and Michael Jordan, you would see greatness. Like, I think a lot of the kids, most of the young players nowadays, they respect Michael, but I don't think they understand the type of player Michael Jordan was and how good he was. Like coming into the league, Michael was only considered a scorer. That's all he was considered. But by the time he retired, he was arguably one of the best defenders to ever play, one of the best scorers, not just dunkers. Like he was hell of a good dunker and probably one of the best of all time. But he was one of the best scorers, because he went from only driving the ball to being able to knock down threes and his mid-game shot, that turnaround jumper that Kobe did, that everybody knows Kobe for,
MJ did it first.
that was MJ's move right there. And you can see it because it looks exactly the same.
Have you seen those videos where they put Kobe and Michael's videos together? They do the exact same moves.
Yeah.
They act the same way.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think Kobe knew what he wanted to do. He looked at Michael, and Michael was one of his, one of the people that he really admired growing up watching play, and he tailored his game after Michael's, and I think he actually ended up in some aspects passing Michael in some aspects, not all, because I still think Michael is the greatest. In my opinion, Michael's the greatest basketball player to ever play the
What
game.
aspects?
Sometimes it's like, sometimes I feel like Kobe had way more of a killer instinct, which is odd to say because Michael will reach down your throat and grab your heart out.
Yeah.
But just watching Kobe's in if you look at Kobe, the way I looked at him is like he would never want to lose, which I'm sure most of the NBA players, if not all of the NBA players, never want to lose. But you don't always see it in their faces, though.
That's pretty true.
You don't always see it in their faces. And every time Kobe went on the court, it just looked like he had that look of I ain't losing. But like I said, I by far will always think that MJ, and I know people will argue.
It's the greatest debate.
Yeah, people will argue about it, but the 6 rings speaks for itself, right? Like that's what he has 6 rings. You look at the teams that he had. He had Scottie Pippen for all 6 rings. Yes, I'll give them that. But you look at the rest of the team. The rest of the team wasn't really quote unquote all-stars. You know what I mean? They were all pretty much role players, right?
But they were good at.
At what they did. See, but that's what I think. A lot of to me, when I look at the kids that are playing now, because you can be super good, right? But I feel like if you're not making the guys around you better, what's the sense?
It's just selfish play.
Yeah, because like, in your opinion, do you think one person, like, you think Giannis could win a championship all by himself if he had junk players around him?
I think if Giannis doesn't have Chris Middleton to help him out scoring, if he doesn't have Brook Lopez in the paint, I don't think the Bucks are as good as they are.
Exactly, right? That's why you look at that, right? Of course, and think about it this way. Yes, Chris Middleton was an all-star this year, right? I'm not sure if he was last year, but I know he was this year.
I think this was his second one.
Okay, so he was an all-star twice. But can you imagine if he was playing with one legitimate consecutive all-star person, a player?
Like a staff.
Yeah, like, can you imagine if Clay was on his team?
That's some shooting.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you figure you put Clay on that team, you take away, you switch Clay and put Middleton on the Warriors, you put Clay on the Bucks.
That's a good point. Like,
because
I don't know if Chris Middleton takes as much of the. He takes as much, what's it called?
Pressure
off of Giannis as much as Clay would.
Yeah, because everybody gonna be watching Clay running around trying to get shot, and everybody knows that Clay can knock down shots from anywhere on the court. He doesn't have a specific corner that he shoots from. He doesn't shoot from the top of the key or the elbow, whatever. You can give him the ball anywhere, and he will knock it down.
You know that semicircular line that goes all around the court? That's his spot.
Yeah, so that's what's kind of interesting. I feel like if Giannis had somebody like Clay on his team, somebody he knows going to give him 30, going to give him 20, an average of 25 a night, because that's pretty much what he averages, 20-something a night,
like that.
Right? Every single night. Middleton doesn't give him that every single night, right? But Clay gonna give you that every single night, and then he gonna give you defense, right? Which means Clay gonna watch their best player, right? which is
I
gonna
mean,
take.
I don't know if
which
Giannis would do, because Giannis is pretty good on the perimeter D.
But then if you, but see Clay, the difference between Clay and Giannis, I feel, is that no matter what, Clay gonna give you the best he is, or the best version of himself on both ends of the court. Not to say Giannis it's not gonna, but I feel like if Giannis didn't have to guard their best player,
Then
can you
Clay
imagine?
can.
Can you imagine his offensive?
Okay.
Because it's gonna
I see
open
where you're coming from.
a lot more offense for him, and he gonna be way more rested, not having to chase Kawhi Leonard around the floor, right? You know.
That would be good.
But that would be pretty interesting to see, though. But, anyways, what else?
We can compare the what ifs for as
Yeah.
long as we want, but you
Yeah.
know, if it doesn't pan out, we'll never really be able to see it for what it is.
Yeah, because I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think Clay or Steph or Draymond are gonna retire anywhere else but as a Warrior. I think they're solidified themselves,
Yeah.
and I think the Warriors organization are gonna keep them there, because of what they did for the city. You know, they did a lot, bringing them those 3 championships, taking them to 5 straight finals. You know, it's amazing.
That is pretty damn cool.
But yeah, you know, watching the Celtics growing up was. I think Larry Bird is probably one of the most underrated superstars when it comes to the NBA. People don't know, like maybe he wasn't the biggest jumper athletically, but I don't think people realize the type of player that he was. He was one of those, you know, he was from Indiana, right? And he was one of those guys that worked super hard. He was diving on the floor for balls, you know, and he was a phenomenal passer. He was obviously one of the greatest shooters to have, as a forward, right? He's a forward, so one of the greatest forward shooters to ever play the game, I feel.
For his time.
For his time. Yeah, well, you know, yeah.
Because that was back in the 80s?
Yeah, late 80s and then early 90s. I think he retired in 92, if I'm not mistaken.
But yeah, that time, the type of shooter he was, I think, the way people describe it, he was amazing.
Oh man, when he won, I think he won 2 of the 3-point shootouts consecutive. He won twice.
I saw this video on Larry, or someone told a story about Larry Bird. So basically, he walked into wherever they rest before they go out into the contest. He walks in and he says, "Who's coming in second?"
Well, you know, I mean, he had a lot of confidence, and you know what's amazing is you look at, I mean, it's funny because you look at the Celtics team, and they were filled with white guys. Nothing against the white guys, but they was filled with white guys. But all these white guys could play. I mean, Kevin McHale, arguably one of the best power forwards, because he had a shot that nobody could block. His shot was amazing, and he was a really good defender. He had these long arms, and he could lock guys down, and he was tough as nails, man. But they had a really good front line, which was key to the success that they had. You know, their front line with Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, and Larry Bird. It's a good size front line too, because you know, Larry Bird at 6'9", McHale at 6'10", and the Chief at 7 feet. You know, so it's a pretty decent front line right there. Good size, yeah. Nowadays the front line's a little bit smaller. Yeah. A lot of small forwards are really small forwards. Like you're talking 6'7", 6'6", maybe 6'8". It's very rare for the small forward to be any taller. But you know, Larry Bird was a small forward at 6'9", and yeah, you know, so it was amazing.
That's your power forwards today.
Yeah, exactly. And in some cases, some centers, like there's some underrated small centers that handle their business nowadays.
You know, our starting center for the Heat, Bam. Actually,
Bam
he's a power forward.
But he starts at center?
Well, since Mars Leonard is out this season, I think he's been injured or something. He's been playing more center, and our power forward's Derek Jones Jr. I think.
Oh, okay. Well, see, with that, but you look at Adebayo, didn't he make the All-Star team
He was an All-Star this year.
Yeah. So that means that shows the type of player he is, though. If you can switch positions and then at his height to be able to handle playing against some of them big boys, that's crazy, which is amazing to see, though. But anyways, I think we've taken up a lot of time. I hope you enjoyed watching us. We're gonna put together more of these and have more to talk about in the future.
Hopefully we can get this out to see if people enjoy it.
Hope you guys like it. Like I said before, shout out to all the names that we mentioned. Hope you guys get a chance to peep this. We enjoyed making it. We enjoyed talking and having conversation about it. If you guys have any questions, you can hit us up. Or you
Probably
can
put our Instagrams or something in the description.
Yeah. You can subscribe if you want.
If you want.
You can like if you want. Comment if you want. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of comments, negative ones, because people probably won't agree with me.
Put your opinions in the comments, and maybe we can talk about it if we see something we like.
All right. And if you have something you think we should talk about, because we're gonna be pretty honest the way we talk, and about the things that we talk about. We might not have all of the stats and the numbers and the logistics that everybody else has, but we're gonna be working on getting some of that stuff and being a little bit more polished, I guess, in the future. But we just wanted to put something out there because we have a lot of time on our hands.
A lot.
So anyways, we just want to say peace.
Thank you for your time. Hope you enjoy.
And be sure to watch us again. We
Goodbye.
out.